Thank you for joining me. My name is Randy Ale, and I pastor the Journey Church in Sonora, California. One of the most important things to be aware of when we study the Bible is context. There are two primary types of context that we need to be aware of: historical and literary. And in this session, we'll be focusing on literary context. The first goal of Bible study is to discover what the original author intended to communicate to his original audience. And discovering that demands that we consider the literary context. Literary context means, first of all, that words only have meaning in sentences. And second, that biblical sentences only have clear meaning in relation to what precedes and what follows. The most important question of context then is, what's the point? And this question needs to be asked over and over and over again. Answering the question, what's the point, requires first that we consider what the author has said before and after the specific passage that we're currently studying. That means, of course, the verses immediately surrounding our passage, but it's bigger than just that. The literary context flows outward in ever-widening circles to include the broader section of the book that we're studying, then to other writings from the same author, other books in the same or similar genre. We'll talk about that shortly. And then we consider the Testament. Are we in the Old Testament or the New Testament? And finally, to the context of the entire Bible. And this is probably a good place to inject a key principle to studying and understanding the Bible. Let Scripture interpret Scripture. Let the Bible do its own work. Don't try to make one passage say or mean something another passage clearly says it can't mean. But words and sentences have meaning not only in relationship to what's written before and after. Their meaning is also derived from the type of writing, the type of literature, that is, the genre. Very simply defined, genre is a category of artistic composition characterized by similarities in form, style, or subject matter. Now, if you were to Google literary genres, you'd get a variety of answers. Some say there are 4 genres, some 5, some 6, or even 8. Clearly, the categories are broad and overlapping, and the same holds true when we talk about genres in the Bible. But here are a few of the many types of writing that we can find in the Bible. There's poetry, there's story or narrative, there's history, there's legal writing, there's prophecy, men and women speaking for God, speaking the words of God. There's apocalyptic writing that focuses on the end times. We find personal letters as well as letters to churches. There are parables. These are stories told to drive home a point. There's figurative speech and literal and so much more. Now, with all these different types of writings, our task is not primarily to define each, but rather to recognize the type of writing we're studying and to understand it in the light of that particular genre. After all, you wouldn't study a letter from your grandmother the same way you would study a history textbook or a new law. I hope. Would you? Neither can we study each book of the Bible or even every part of the same book in the same way. In future videos, we'll look at some of the specific ways we should study different types of biblical writing. Thanks for joining me.